The wait is over, Raider Nation. Something big just went down in Vegas. The Las Vegas Raiders have made a bold move in the 2025 NFL Draft, selecting running back Ashton Genty in the first round. That's right. With all the noise, all the trade talks, and all the pressure, the Raiders went with the guy they believe can change the game. But before we break down why Ginty is headed to Vegas, a quick reminder. If you're a true member of the nation, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and don't forget to tap the bell icon so you never miss out on breaking Raiders news. Let's dive in. So, why Genty? Simply put, he was the best player on the board. Forget the rumors. Forget what other teams were trying to do. The Bears and Broncos were both reportedly trying to move up to get him. But the Raiders didn't blink. They stayed locked in and made the pick. And you know what? It makes sense. In a draft full of hype, only a few players truly stood out as generational talents. Ginty was one of them. This guy doesn't just run, he explodes through defenses. Between the tackles, he's a bulldozer. Outside runs? Lightning. Sure, some folks wonder about his receiving game, but that's just because his college team didn't use him that way. Doesn't mean he can't do it, just means they didn't need him to. And, let's be real, the Raiders needed a difference maker in the backfield. After a tough season with a struggling offense, especially at running back, Genty fills a massive gap. He's not just the best running back in the draft. Some scouts say he was the best overall prospect. Period. Stay tuned, because this is only the beginning of what could be a new era in silver and black. Can Ashton Genty already be considered a top 5 running back in the NFL? I know. We haven't seen him hit the field yet. But imagine if last year I had told you that Brock Bowers was the best tight end in the league. Would you have believed it? Probably not. But now, everyone's talking about him as a top guy. That's the kind of vibe I'm getting with Ginty. We might be having those same conversations soon. This guy has the potential to be the best in the game. And let's not forget, the Raiders' running game was bottom of the barrel last season. They averaged just 79.8 yards per game, dead last in the NFL, and only 3.6 yards per carry. Ouch. But the Raiders are determined to turn that around. They've been making moves all offseason to bring in the talent that can shift the offense. And Genty is a huge piece of that puzzle. Not only is he a powerful runner, but his presence will boost the offensive line and provide balance for a team that desperately needs it. Now, you might wonder, how much can we expect from him this season? Well, here's my prediction. Genty will finish with 293 carries, 1,463 yards, 4.8 yards per carry, and 12 touchdowns. That's a hefty workload for a rookie, but let's be real. When you draft a player like Ginty in the first round, you're planning on using him. The Raiders need him to hit the ground running. Literally. Think of it like when Saquon Barkley and Ezekiel Elliott came into the league and immediately took on massive roles. Ginty has that kind of potential, and with his rookie contract in hand, he's going to see a lot of action. Now, why else did the Raiders pull the trigger on Ginty? It all comes down to relationships. The Raiders didn't just look at stats, they dug deep. They put in the work to connect the dots on how Ginty will fit perfectly into their system. That chemistry between player and team is key to turning this organization around. Let's talk about why the Raiders' pick wasn't just smart. It was strategic. This move didn't come out of nowhere. The Raiders weren't guessing. They didn't just pull Ashton Genty's name out of a hat. No, they studied him, met with him, and put in the work to make sure he was the perfect fit. Here's what most fans don't see. Behind the scenes, the Raiders were all in on Ginty from the start. They held a top 30 visit, sat down with him at the NFL Combine, and even made the trip to Boise State's Pro Day. And not just any visit. The Raiders were the only team whose GM and running backs coach showed up together. Not only that, they were the only team to take Ginty and his college head coach out to dinner afterward. That's not routine. That's dedication. That's a team doing its homework. Sure, there were rumors about other names. Smoke around Kelvin Banks, buzz around Armanu. But looking back, that all feels like part of the plan. A little draft day misdirection. Deep down, the Raiders knew exactly what they wanted. And it was Genty all along. There's always risk when you take a running back high in the draft. But ask yourself this. Would a front office as sharp and methodical as this one roll the dice if they weren't completely confident? John Spytek, the man at the helm, has been making chess moves while other teams are still learning checkers. He values the trenches. He knows the cost of skipping on an offensive lineman. But still, he picked Ginty because he believes this kid isn't just a back. He's a difference maker. This wasn't just about talent. It was about trust, culture, and vision. And now, with number 2 in the backfield, the Raiders aren't just hoping for a spark. They're betting on a future star. Let's talk about the energy surrounding the Raiders' pick. The excitement was through the roof. Raider Nation knew this was a big moment, and it was clear that Ashton Genty was the guy who could make an immediate impact. You could feel the buzz in the air as soon as his name was called. This wasn't just another draft pick. It felt like the beginning of something special. Now, let's dive into why the Raiders selected Ginty beyond just his talent. It's about identity. This team isn't just looking to compete. They want to dominate. And I think there's a shift in mindset happening here. The Raiders are looking to play FU football, a style that punches you in the mouth and doesn't apologize for it. You've seen it work with teams like the Philadelphia Eagles and Detroit Lions. It's all about building that physical brand of football, something that's meant to wear you down, take control, and win in the postseason. When you look at what the Raiders are building, they're not just trying to get by in September and October. The goal is November and December. That's when the Raiders want to be firing on all cylinders, when they've figured out their identity and when the rest of the league doesn't want to face them. And here's the thing that gets overlooked. The Raiders aren't just trying to compete with Patrick Mahomes. Trying to find a quarterback that can do what Mahomes does, that's nearly impossible. Instead, the Raiders have a different strategy. Keep him on the sideline. How? By building a team that dominates in the trenches, just like the Eagles did in their Super Bowl win over Mahomes. The Eagles didn't just outscore the Chiefs. They controlled the clock and kept Mahomes off the field with their physicality and power. The Raiders are following that same blueprint, strengthening the trenches, controlling the run game, and using that physicality to wear down their opponents. Remember, it wasn't just Mahomes' offense that got exposed in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. It was his defense and how quickly he was put under pressure. The Raiders aren't just building to compete. They're building to beat teams like Kansas City at their own game. The Raiders aren't stopping. If they've got enough defensive linemen, they'll get more. If the offensive line is strong, they'll reinforce it. But it's not just about stacking positions. It's about creating a dominant identity, and that's exactly why they went after Ashton Genty. Just like the Philadelphia Eagles made moves to secure key pieces, the Raiders are following a similar strategy. Remember how the Eagles added Saquon Barkley to their already formidable team? Barkley gave them a game-changing dimension, and the Raiders are hoping Ginty can bring that same physicality. This isn't just about getting a good running back. It's about recreating that blueprint of success. The Raiders are setting themselves up to play tough, physical football, much like the Eagles and Detroit Lions with Jahmyr Gibbs. It's a brand of football that wears teams down and controls the game from the ground up. The Raiders aren't just trying to be competitive. They want to dominate. And in doing so, they're hoping to put themselves in the best position to finally beat the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. This isn't just about drafting a star running back. This is about taking the fight to every team, every game, and setting the tone for what's to come. By adding Ginty, the Raiders are doubling down on winning the trenches, controlling the clock, and being unpredictable. I can't wait to see this Raiders team in action. The excitement is through the roof as we look forward to seeing how they gel on the field. But there's more to the vision than just this season. The long-term goal is what really matters. And that's where Ashton Genty fits in perfectly. Why? Because Ginty is what I like to call a building block player. Think about Max Crosby, Brock Bowers, or even JPJ. These are the kinds of players who show up every day, give you everything they've got, and set the standard for the rest of the team. That's what the Raiders need right now. Let's be real, The Raiders have been in a kind of football purgatory for a while, and to break free from that cycle you need foundation players, guys who are going to establish the culture. The Raiders are in a position where they're thinking long-term, aiming to build a team that can compete for years to come. It's a similar mindset to how Tom Brady, John Spike, and Pete Carroll have built successful programs whether in New England, Tampa Bay, or Seattle. When you have players like Ginty, players who buy into the system, who are disciplined, and who lead by example, it becomes contagious. Imagine having the Max Crosby mentality, getting up at 6 a.m. every day, leaving late, and setting the tone for your teammates. That's the type of culture the Raiders are trying to create. And Ginty is exactly the kind of player who will make everyone around him better. This is why Ashton Genty was the first-round pick. He's the kind of guy you build a team around. He's a player who will give everything he has for the team, and that's something that will fuel the Raiders' future success.